Wherever you went in the world in the 1980s, if you mentioned Leeds, people would say the same things. Leeds United, Don Revie, Ellen Road, Alan Clark, Eddie Gray, Billy Bremner, and sometimes Tetley Bitter. In Leeds, the people knew the rest of the story. Alan Clark had become manager, and Leeds United had been relegated from the First Division. Eddie Gray couldn't get them back up. Billy Bremner was doing his best. Don Revie was, tragically, terminally ill. Some felt that the football club he'd worked so hard to build was too. Ellen Road had been sold to the council. Its terraces belonged to hooligans who caused riots wherever they went. In 1988, the players were favourites to win promotion. But they could hardly win a game. In the boardroom, Chairman Leslie Silver and Managing Director Bill Fotherby wanted Leeds United to change. They sacked Billy Bremner, but that only made things worse. The fans were angry, and no good manager would touch them. Bill Fotherby believed Leeds United were worthy of the best. And when England manager Bobby Robson turned the job down, Fotherby decided if he couldn't hire him, he could at least ask his advice.
So I said, all right then, tell me. I'm all over England, and I've been to Spain and Italy looking for a manager. Who would you recommend if you was in my place? He said, there's only one man I'd go for.
At first, I laughed, said, well, I'll think about it, and did put the phone down. I thought, yeah, absolutely no chance.
Howard Wilkinson had taken Sheffield Wednesday to the top of the First Division, building their best team in decades. Perceptive, Wilkinson sensed a lack of ambition that would end in a slide back to the doldrums. Leslie Silver had to convince him that his club had the ambition Wilkinson craved.
I arranged to meet Leslie after hours at his office up at Ceylon. I got to start to believe that this man could be trusted, that he was genuine, and that at its heart was the welfare of Leeds United, and the fact that that affected him deeply. I said, well, you need to guarantee me probably but maybe £2 to £3 million in the early part of what it is we're trying to do. And we shook hands on that, told my wife quite late at night. Her response was, why would you want to do that?
His wife told me after, she said, I saw you walking down that drive, she says, Howard, don't you go to Leeds. She said, it's the mafia. Don't go to Leeds, for God's sake.
Everything was against Leeds. The directors were bold and flamboyant, not Wilkinson's type. The players had lost 4 games in a row, and the fans had a reputation as some of the worst behaved in the country.
System of cages to segregate rival fans and the use of sophisticated video cameras.
I couldn't get my car out of the car park. The damage, there was a riot in the car park. There were murders going on.
New cars were damaged. The firms say the 20-minute assault has cost them thousands of pounds.
Everything rested on Howard Wilkinson's decision. Wednesday didn't want him to leave, and Wilkinson still hoped their board might be as ambitious as Leeds United's.
I'd arranged with Howard, I'd meet him on the motorway. They were playing at Blackpool, Sheffield Wednesday. Took the contract out, took my pen out, and I wrote on the salary. I said, how's that? Well, he says, give us your pen, Bill. I said, here you are, peace in our time. We've got a manager.
Thank you very much.
In the news conference, Wilkinson's coffee cup runneth over in anticipation.
I arrive with certain thoughts in my head. I hope when we're doing well we can afford cups with handles on.
10th of the 10th, 88 is when Howard Wilkinson started walking down the corridor. I always remember his first meeting and said, right lads, you lads are 3rd from bottom in the 2nd Division. So that means that's how bad a manager I am.
One of the first things you'll have to do, presumably, is get a new teacup, because the one you got this morning wasn't quite up to your standard, was it?
Yes. Somebody had nicked the handle off it. Let's hope the next cup I hold's got 2 handles to it.
Wilkinson's reputation was long ball football on Saturday and long cross-country running for his players during the week. A dour disciplinarian with an emphasis on work. At Leeds, he found a team taking it easy, with one shining light.
John Sheridan, if anything, typified Bremner's approach, and to a lesser extent Eddie Gray's. It was the way he approached the game, and what you never knew what he was going to do. And he was at times just as awful as he was brilliant. He was our utter idol, I've got to say. You talk to any Leeds fan who was a teenager during the 1980s, Sheridan is the one consistent thread throughout that period up until Wilkinson that basically was worth the admission money.
The problem he had was Shez would never ever be an Howard Wilkinson kind person. The day that Howard Wilkinson walked in here on the Monday, Shed didn't even bother turning up for training. Right, you know what I mean? He probably still had a few over the weekend. And Billy could handle that, whereas Howard Wilkinson wasn't having that kind of culture. Or we're going to try and change all that culture.
Everybody played a role, and I don't think they liked Howard.
No, they didn't.
I don't think they liked his style, his manner.
His training.
Oh, they hated his training.
If Howard Wilkinson was going to build a new Leeds United, he would need new players who were willing to build it with him.
You've got your messages, you've got your vision, you've got a picture of the important steps along the way, you've got a picture of the culture you want to create. But what you want, if it's possible, you want people who mirror those beliefs, who mirror that culture.
He wanted players of top quality, experienced but still ambitious, willing to join Wilkinson in the doldrums and work their way back up. The player he needed was at Old Trafford.
I got a knock on my door about 7:30 in the morning, and there he was standing there, Sir Alex, just to inform me that I'll never play another game for the club again. Just about 7:30 in the morning. So I went back to my bed. I woke up about 9:30, and I thought it was a dream. So my two boys said, what was the manager here in the morning for? So it was time to move on. And within these conversations was that you played your last game, Middlesbrough, Sheffield Wednesday, and Leeds United want to sign you. Got to speak to Leeds first, but you don't speak to the other two. Fine, no get argue with you. So got there, looked at the stadium, bit dilapidated on the one side. Wow, this has got to be hard work.
I used all my powers of persuasion, including money, to sell the story to him, to convince him that, you know, this wasn't the end of his career, but the start of another one.
Oh, I says, and we need you so badly. You can do it here for us. You'll make all the difference to Leeds. Oh. He goes. I never expected him to come back.
But I soon woke up when I spoke to Howard, spoke to Bill, and I thought to myself, well, these guys really trust me to do a job here, because wherever I've been in football, it was like, well, sign for us and let's get on with it and see what happens. But these guys actually said to me, we need you to do this for us, because if we don't do this next 2 or 3 years, then we're in real trouble here at the club.
And in he walks. Oh, Gordon, I says. He said, I've made my mind up. I'd like to come and join you, he says. I think you're going places. Well, that was it. That was it.
Because I knew if I got him, a bit like the honeypot, you know, the bees would gather. I knew that if I got him, not only would it be a terrific influence within the club, but it would be a marker straight away of the sort of quality we were looking for.
When you leave Manchester United, I think it's the biggest club in the world. I didn't want to leave Manchester United and go to a club and just tick along and play at my time. I still feel I've got a lot to offer the game, so does Howard. I'm here to try and improve Leeds United and get them back where they belong. And if I can do that in the 2 years I'm here, I feel I've achieved something.
In those days, when you signed a 31-year-old player, you know, you had to be damn sure that he had another 2 or 3 years in front of him, and he was dropping down into a league that was still very much blood and thunder.
Leeds United, at the bottom of Division 2, were coming for Division 1 players.
Chris Fairclough was probably one, if not the most important signing for Howard.
It's a good thing with Fairclough is, unlike Noel Blake, who'd been kind of tried in that position to do a similar role, is that Fairclough was a much better footballer. And I think you began to immediately see the difference in calibre.
I'm talking to Fairclough about the deal and one thing and another. He says, well, you see, Mr. Fotherby, he says, I would love to come, he says, but my wife's having a baby. I said, I'll tell you something, Chris. You know, women in Leeds, they have babies. I said, it doesn't make any difference. You have your baby in Leeds. I said, and everybody will love that baby. Everybody will love that baby. They'll love you. Anyway, he signed for Leeds. What a centre-half.
The silent assassin, Chrissy. He had a real sense of the responsibility every member of the team had to each other. He would be the first to point that out.
From Scottish champions Glasgow Rangers, Wilkinson brought back a force of nature from his old Sheffield Wednesday side, a player he knew inside out, Mel Sterland.
Even early on at Notts County, I'd seen the value of having fullbacks who could get forward, as at that time they were the hidden weapon. I said, I think this will surprise people.
Going to the hotel, and there he was, Howard Wilkinson with Bill Fotherby. You know, what he told me, what he was going to do to this football club were unbelievable.
Melvin, funny, entertaining, unbelievable, getting forward, confident, brash, take a penalty, no problem, take a free kick, no problem.
You know, his energy levels, if you can have stats, what they've got now on how many times he ran up and down that right flank, you know, nobody could touch him.
The spending continued throughout the summer of 1989. Carl Shutt, Mickey Thomas, John McClelland, Chris O'Donnell, Jim Beglin and John Hendry all signed. Then, when their new midfielder was announced, the whole world looked at Leeds.
Howard said to me, he said, Billy says, I'd like to sign Vinnie Jones. I said, you must be joking. Have you got enough trouble? He said, I need Vinnie Jones, he says. I want him to sort that dressing room out.
I looked around that stadium and I pictured it being full house. And he sold it to me well as well, Alan Roberts. Fell in love with the place. And I said, this is for me, where do I sign?
Vinnie Jones, you know, he's one of those, you don't get many people like him in the game.
Vinnie Jones was the last person we ever expected to see in a Leeds United shirt. I mean, Jones' obviously reputation came before him.
You've got a reputation in football, let's be honest. You're the hard man of football. People always talk about you in those terms. Does that worry you at all?
Shouldn't worry me, it should worry me opponents.
Vinnie Jones was a household name, but not one you could say at the dinner table. He was everything society feared from 1980s football hooligans let loose on the pitch. That had made him a celebrity.
Beneath that image that Vinnie had at the time, there was a person with great leadership qualities, great humility, a desire to achieve a respectable place in football, and a burning passion for the game. So, although it seemed strange at the time to a lot of people, to me, it was the acquisition of another diamond. You know, they come in all shapes and sizes.
So, yeah, I totally bought into it, and he never disappointed me.
I got on great with him. It's like chalk and cheese, the way my lifestyle was. But when we met in the football field or the training ground, we were exactly the same. He wanted to beat me at every running session, and I wanted to beat him, which dragged everybody else along. He's infectious in everything he does. And that's why I love so much about people like him. Everything he does is 100%. Chris Kamara's the same. Very same. So when they trained, they two, when they joined, plus about another 4 or 5, it set the standard of fitness at the club. We never had a fitness science. It was like 6 guys led you, and you followed them. You didn't have to be in the lead, didn't have to beat anybody, but as long as you pushed yourself to that maximum, that this 6 would appreciate what you did. In the long run, you would benefit that. Gary Speed, people like that. And we believe we're fitting anybody else in the league. And it's a wonderful weapon, but it was set by people like Vinnie and Cammy, who weren't spectacular footballers, but wonderful professionals, wonderful guys. I mean, you can't go wrong when you're surrounded with good people.
And he wanted the main lot together, and I think he didn't want the sarcasm, you know. And there was a couple, you know. I grabbed hold of Birdie and Bobby Davison one day after training. You know, they went, oh, you know, we passed the ball to feet here, and started making a couple of comments while I was up. And then Wilson called me in the office. He said, that's exactly why I brought you here. You know, I was like, all right.
And Jones became, if you like, the cornerstone of rebuilding the club's relationship with the fans, because whilst Bill Fotherby and Leslie Silver really wanted to do that, they didn't have the tools. They were businessmen.
I think at the back of Howard's mind, it was also we're creating this excitement and buzz, and we need that Vinnie Jones type character, you know, to push the fans the extra mile. So clever, really.
I think he knew exactly what was, because you don't buy Vinnie Jones at random.
I mean, you get certain players at football clubs, when they come into the club, the crowd take to them. Whether they're great players or average players, there's something about them that the crowd like. And that happened with Vinnie, and that gave everybody a big lift.
I'm not worried whether I start getting good press or bad press. All I'm worried about is whether the lads at that end of this ground are chanting my name for the right reasons. And I'll give them something to chant about, I can tell you.
One young midfielder, Gary Speed, looked up to Strachan. Another young player, a disciple of Billy Bremner, was so disillusioned by Wilkinson that he'd asked to leave. David Batty became Vinnie Jones's responsibility.
When I'd got up there was a buzz about Bats and a little bit about Speeds. But they were young lads then. And I took Bats under my wing big time. You know, we hit it off straight away. I could make him laugh in a second. I know people don't believe that, but I mean, he could look at me and I could make him laugh, you know. And the things we used to do, you know, I mean, I remember once his old man he just bought his first house and they'd put all the conifers up and everything. And I went around there drunk one night and was doing donuts all in his child. Smashed the garden to absolute bits. I think John Sheridan was staying at his house and they come running down with a knife and I was in someone else's car and they were like, Vin, you bastard. Yeah, but we used to have great crack. And so me and Bats got on very well. So this was our first competitive game. Well, me and Bats were just leaving bodies everywhere. We weren't out doing each other. We just saying, right, I'll hit him, you hit him, you hit him, you hit him. And this Paul Hart, remember him, big centre half? He had to run on and stop it. What are you doing? What are you doing? You're killing us. And yeah, I had a bit of a row with him, and because Bats was like me, he was a little psycho when he ran across the line. You know what I mean? When the whistle went, we were both little psychos, I think, and I was like the older brother, very much so. And we grew. I think we grew thicker and thicker as well, stronger and stronger. But I've got to say, he was the filthiest little to room with.
Not everybody took to Vinnie. Ex-players and fans who remembered the glory years wondered what was becoming of the proud history of Leeds United. Howard Wilkinson told them that the time for history was over. He removed all trace of the Reevy era from Ellen Road's walls, except one, a list of Don Reevy's honours that Wilkinson kept next to his desk.
What I found was a club in depression. Even at that age, which is a long time ago, I knew it didn't take long for that sort of decline to become terminal. So we needed to take action, and we needed to take action quickly, and in some cases it might shock.
Yeah, well, when you had so much great history before, and I embraced the old players, you know, Eddie Gray, Peter Lorimer, and I embraced them. I know Howard had taken the pictures down and everything else, but they were always going back up. It was like, look, let's stop living in the past. Let's get, you know, they're not going back up until we deserve them to be back up. And I understood that.
When we've got a team worthy of even getting close to what they achieved, we'll put them back up.
Before Leeds United could achieve anything, they had to win promotion. Everything was riding on 1989-90. Wilkinson, backed by Silver and Fotherby, had already spent £3 million.
Everybody has to believe you want to win. You want to win promotion. You got to take a gamble. You take a chance. The riches are there.
There was a big sort of mood swing, you know, from when Howard first came to getting to that point. And it was, you know, this guy's really serious, and the club are serious, and we don't belong in this division, and we're getting out. You know, I think it was a total belief.
Is this team going to be in the first division, do you think, by the end of next season?
Does the sun come out of the sky?
Answers on a postcard, please. Let's move on now to the latest cricket score, shall we?
A 5-2 defeat at Newcastle on the opening day made everybody think twice. But Leeds didn't lose again in 15 matches. And in December they went top of the league. But the London press, especially when Leeds beat their favourite club West Ham, weren't happy to see United coming up and attacked them on the back pages. Boring, mean, cynical. The curse of Leeds again cast a murky shadow over football.
Ever since I came here, that one keeps being thrown up. You know, you only have to commit a foul and on Monday morning, it's the old cynical Leeds. If you do something well, nobody ever writes about the old terrific Leeds.
Vinnie Jones inevitably was the brunt of much of the stick.
We know what's been said. Now, I wouldn't mind if Trevor Bucking had come up to me and said, Howard Wilkinson, who I've known for quite some time, I've got to tell you, I feel that strongly about that. That was rubbish. But I get a handshake, I get a nice smile, and can we have Vinnie? Now I ask you, you know? These are the things the general public don't see.
I've often asked players when at timely intervals, leading into a game, I've often asked them, look, I'm going to ask you a question. I only want yes or no answer. Do you want to win this game next week? I've never had a player say other than, I want to win it. Sometimes when you look at a game and a team, you have to say to yourself, has he got better players than me? Has he got a better team than me? Is he a better manager than me? What can I do that will ensure we can beat them?
And what you don't do is when you're boxing, if there's somebody who's bigger and stronger, you don't play them at their own game. You play something different. If somebody thought they were technically great and could pass the ball, we just ask the question, can you? Can you pass the ball? Good. What do you need to pass the ball? You need time and space. We're not going to give you that. If you can pass the ball without that, then brilliant.
We used to get called long ball merchants and so on, and you know, it wasn't that. We used to bury teams in first 20 minutes. We used to hammer them because of the tempo of the game. We knew we could go on for 90. It used to be 90 minutes.
70 minutes, we knew that we were going to win the game.
We were going to win the game
because we were fitter than anybody else. We got criticised because we were attack minded. We weren't long ball.
No.
Because he never ran the whole length of the right, from right back to right wing to cross the ball. He would run up there because McAllister would get it, Bats would get it. It would go out wide to Strachan, and he'd do the overlap. And at the end of the day, it was like
there'd be a goal.
There was 1, 2, 3, 4 with speed up the back post in that area, and it was. And as Howard used to say, you take 10 shots, you'll score 1 goal. You get 10 corners, you'll score 1 goal. And that was the mentality that we were taught. As players, if you create chances, you will score. If you keep the ball in the middle of the park, what chance have you got of scoring?
Possession don't win your games.
Yeah,
putting the ball in the net wins the games.
The most important people in that dressing room were the players. Everybody has sacrificed everything for the cause. If we're happy, then I know we can make everybody else happy.
They were the best team in that league. I think even the likes of Newcastle would have to accept that. And yet there was just a period of fluffing your lines, basically, and it needed real depth of character. It needed the characters in the team to come out and pull along perhaps some of the quieter personalities in there.
Leeds were fighting Sheffield United and Newcastle United to win promotion, but after Christmas, goals were drying up. Leeds were stumbling. Wilkinson called on another Wednesday old boy to drop down a division and play up front.
We had a lot of signatures that year, but the timing, because poor old Birdie, he couldn't buy a goal. I mean, you couldn't, for commitment. And I really wanted Birdie to do well because he's really life and soul and wore his heart on his sleeve, but he just couldn't score. I think he scored 1 goal, Great goal, not a diving header. But Chapman coming was a massive boost to us at the right time. That's where good managers get it right.
Some people might say that 1 bite of Howard Wilkinson is enough.
Well, you might say that, Harry, yes. But I think Howard's image is not what he is in actual life. I've worked with him for 4 years at Sheffield Wednesday and had 4 very enjoyable years. And I can't see any reason why I won't have 3.5 enjoyable years here.
Lee Chapman started scoring straight away. 10 goals in 15 games, keeping Leeds top of the league. But Sheffield United, managed by Wilkinson's friend Dave Bassett, weren't giving up the chase. The 2 teams met at Ellen Road at Easter, and Leeds United proved they now had First Division class and character. They won 4-0.
The great thing that Monday for what it told me was the big star players, the Strachan, even the Sterlings and the Chapman, all them, they all came and showed what great players they were. On the big occasion which you needed that day, they came out
it was just these games were a case of who packs in first. And because we had the fitness and the mental strength that we weren't going to pack in first.
By now, we had got a culture being created at the club, whether they were in or out the side. I remember often looking at the bench and thinking how good it was to see a bench that was just as animated as the supporters.
You know, everybody was there. You know, everybody who wasn't involved was there. They were in the dressing room, you know, before and after. It wasn't just like, you know, you've got to stand outside.
No.
You know, because it was a joint effort, because everybody had their role to play in that.
There was a real sense of community in that football club.
It was important for me, for the fans and for the people that had risked so much. And they'd all put their faith in me. Fotherby said to Wilkinson, yeah, all right, we'll buy Vinnie Jones, we'll take the flak. It could have all been so different. You know, it could have all been so different.
Leeds had been top of the league since December the 9th, but the pressure to win promotion was massive, and on a night when they should have sealed it, they fluffed it, giving up a 1-0 lead, shocking their fans, losing 2-1 at home to Barnsley.
Leeds is a one-club city. One-club cities are unique. Given Leeds' history under Don Revie, crowds start to build, people start to talk, expectation builds. The games are coming thick and fast, and you're just thinking, I've got to concentrate on the next game, I've got to concentrate on the next game. But everybody's reminding you that there's 10 games left, there's 8 games left, there's this. If you don't want that, well, you know, go and play for Bury.
United had 2 games left. If they beat Leicester at Ellen Road, they could do it. Losing wasn't an option.
I'd been specifically asked to do something in my career which I'd never done before, and the responsibility was on me and Howard Wilkinson really, and Bill Follaby for collecting the money. And everything I'd done up to that point as a footballer, as a person, it seemed like it was, all that practice was for that day.
But one of them games where, you know, the expression, you couldn't hear yourself think. The noise and the crowd and the tension were unbelievable.
The Leicester keeper, Martin Hodge, came out afterwards and said he couldn't hear his players. He couldn't communicate with his back four because it was so loud. And that was one of those games. A lot of people talk about the atmosphere at Ellen Road, and some of it is built on myth and legend, but that was one of the games whereby you felt the cop roof was going to come down because it was so loud.
Mel Sterling smashed the tension by smashing the ball past the Leicester keeper, putting Leeds ahead.
And then, obviously, we went 1-1. I think Gary Mack scored.
I got a goal from the edge of the box. Mervyn Day was in goal that day. I don't think he's seen it.
And you could have heard a pin drop. There were about 1,000 Leicester fans in Pen 5 on the low fields going berserk, because why wouldn't you want to, you know, mess up a team like Leeds' promotion chances?
That's what sealed my fate. Do you know that? That sealed my fate at Leeds, that goal.
I mean, Gary Mack could have been an hat-trick for him that day. He did score, he hit the post. Mervyn Day saved a worldie.
But that save was pivotal. I don't think Leeds could have come back from going 2-1 down in that game.
But, you know, the way things turned out.
Leicester were a good side. The expectation was high. The thought of drawing or losing was horrific. So every kind of training session I'd done throughout my career, I must have been with 33 at the time, was for that game.
Sterling, again it'll be towards Chapman, headed out, and now McAllister back from Strachan. Here's Strachan again! Have you ever seen a better goal? And have you ever seen one better time?
And I've got to say that when I scored, I can still feel that. I know how it feels like in my life. I can still feel it sometimes. As I said, everything I'd done in my career seemed to be built for that moment.
Fans poured onto the pitch, dancing a conga around Ellen Road as they got the news they wanted to hear. Newcastle had drawn, and Leeds United were up.
We didn't have phones to go and check results at this point. So if somebody said something to you that sounded authoritative, you took it as read.
Vinnie Jones all of a sudden comes in. Lads, Newcastle have drawn. We're up. You know what I mean? We're up. You see what I mean? We're up, and well, at that point, some of the lads were actually half crying. You know, you could see tears coming down.
So me and Mervyn were hugging each other, tears for Mervyn.
So I've gone out of the dressing room and gone out cutting and I seen John L. I said, "Oh, John," I said, "Have we seen you've done it?" No, they said, "Newcastle's still playing." What? Well, John just said, Vinny's come in and said,
Someone had told me on the way in that Sheffield had lost or something like that, and it was an absolute cock-up.
And then he comes, "No, that's not right." It's all, oh.
Of course, we're all looking for Vinny then, like, you know.
That was bizarre, that was. I don't know why someone told me that Sheffield had lost or Newcastle had won or something like that.
Oh, what a nugget. Yeah. I could have killed him if I had a machine gun.
And then it's only when we came back in town and people started buying the football scores paper that people realised that perhaps we hadn't got the right set of results, and then it was on to Bournemouth.
There were thousands of Leeds fans in Bournemouth that day. The aim for Leeds was simple: win and be champions.
I've never seen as many Leeds United fans
Take
on the beach.
Bournemouth.
On the beach. All with cans of lager, and it was red hot that day. It was really boiling hot.
And everybody wanted Leeds to lose, you know, nobody wanted Leeds to win.
We had to win as well.
Yeah,
'cause,
we had to win.
I can remember Howard saying to Chris Kamara, "Just stay in midfield." And he went running off Kamara, and he went over to the right and got the ball and crossed the bloody ball. And Chapman come in and headed it in to make it 1-0. And well, the fans went crackers, we went crackers. I think I'd lost my boots, I think, on the pitch. Somebody took me boots.
All the players went into the stand.
But then we got to the dressing room, it was nuts. Some great pictures of us in the dressing room. You know, me and Chrissy Fairclough, Mel Sterling, Baps.
The things you don't forget. I can remember in the change room there was champagne, and you know, me and Vinnie Jones, and I think it was Leslie Silver. And he were in they were in the changing rooms. It was just immaculate. It was fantastic, great day, and you don't forget them.
I think we ended up in the dressing room after the game. We managed to. It was such a small place. We just managed to get in with all the celebrations going on. Saw Howard afterwards. I think I kissed him. I said, "You've done it, Howard. You did it for us."
I felt it was mission accomplished. I felt that there was so much faith in us. The club and Fotherby and that had put so much at risk. And I wore that. And I wore that.
Yep. We're all right now. We can chuck it now if we feel. I can chuck football now. I've done something that's really, you know, if somebody had asked me to achieve it, then we got there.
Believe it or not, it took me, and I think we're looking in news a little bit, it took me 3 months to totally chill out from that.
The council screened the game in 5 different venues, and then afterwards there was a spontaneous conga as people came in from all the different venues, and we shut Park Row going into City Square, and everyone was kind of sounding the horns and stuff like that.
We got back from Bournemouth and we all jumped in the cars. Coach got back to Ellen Road, we all jumped in cars and we were I think Dylan Kerr might have been there. The car was full up. Was out the sunroof, Speedy and Bats out the sunroof, and my driver I said, "Just keep going round," and it was nuts, and then went into Mr. Craig's and dancing on the tables and everything else.
It's a difficult feeling to describe, and I don't think it's one I'll ever have again.
Everything Leeds had wanted for 8 years was now, finally, theirs. Silver, Fotherby, Wilkinson, Strachan, Jones. Everyone who believed enough to get involved had won what the city had been striving for: First Division football, the chance of a new era. But glory at Leeds United came with a flip side of disaster.
Saturday should have been a day of celebration. United beating Bournemouth to win this Second Division Championship trophy. Instead, it would be remembered for all the wrong reasons. 120 arrests, 20 people injured, and a damage bill yet to be fully assessed. What happened last weekend has been seen throughout the world. The Bournemouth police say there was a level of violence never witnessed before. So why is it that, once again, the worst forms of football hooliganism are connected with the club?
Leeds United had been doing all they could. It wasn't enough for Howard Wilkinson to change the culture on the pitch. Former Bradford City player Cess Pod had been hired at the same time, one of football's first community officers, given the job of reversing the image of Leeds United as a racist hooligan club.
Being up there for a while and getting that message that, you know, Leeds were quite racial and this, that and the other, you know, where, you know, it's quite, You know, you can have a little acorn and then all of a sudden someone chops down a big oak tree on top of it and now you're a racist club. So, you know, things are not fair all the time. So when I went up there, I'd heard this, and my first notes in the first programme, like, there's no room for racism on these terraces. We don't want to play in front of any racial lads, you know, and I think that was a big message. You know, it was underestimated at the time, but I think it really broke down a lot of barriers at the time. You know, I know we've done great things on the pitch and stuff, but in the community we did a lot. And you wanted to, because everybody jumped on the horse, you know what I mean? We all jumped on.
I was on board with everything they wanted to do. You know, I love the idea of having football that was accessible to everybody, whether you're female, you're black, whatever. And then it was a case really then of getting out into the community and selling Howard's and myself's ideals to the public and change the view of Leeds United. Some of the guys that he brought in, they weren't big names, but when he brought them in, they became big names. People like Chris White, centre-back, Chris Fairclough. He brought in, if you remember, the twins, Wallace brothers. And all of a sudden, you got people from Chapeltown taking note and thinking, wow, you know, I need to go and see these guys.
The racial side, it's society's problem. I knew I was coming to a huge club, very confident, you know, in my ability, and felt that if those fans couldn't appreciate someone of a different colour for the ones that have got that element of, you know, racism in them, I knew I was coming to a big club, a well-supported club. That would never have stopped me coming.
I loved the way the people loved the club. People that work there, people in the city. When you go out at night, you know. I mean, I used to go places no white man could ever go in Leeds. I used to go to the Silver Tree and places up Chapeltown drinking and that, and take some white boys, and I don't think any white boys to this day go. I took Eric Cantona out one night. We went to a blues and after blues club.
He was the first to say yes. If you wanted someone to go into the community, he loved kids. And if you wanted someone to go into the community with you and Vinny was around, he'd be the one to go. And he'd take his car, he'd drive the other guys there. He'd pull up, he'd get in the car, give you a whiz round, you know, because the kids love flash cars, and Vinny had one. And he just spoke to the kids. He'd even speak to some of the kids in a Caribbean accent in Chapeltown once, you know, and put on the music that they love, rapping music. He could relate to everyone on every level.
The club was building on the work the fans had started themselves. Marching All Together, a fanzine confronting racist fans at Ellen Road, was among the first trying to change the culture. The square ball soon followed, appealing to fans who love football, music, and being disliked.
What we were desperate for was something that would look at the club in a different way. Some kind of alternative news, and so that the square ball wasn't just a fanzine. It looked so professionally well put together by the standards of 1989, 1990. Not only you wanted to have a fanzine, but you wanted to have a great fanzine as well, and the best part of it was propaganda, where they would reprint all the nasty stuff that all the other people said about us, and that I guarantee you was the first bit everyone went to. And it was a revelation that not only would we have a fanzine, it was part of this whole renaissance of the club, because the club were really trying hard from getting the players involved in kind of various different liaisons with the fans. And I think they recognised that they had to do something to rebuild links with the local community. They were doing the best they can, but also I'd say that the square ball managed to do something slightly different, and it gained a lot of currency very, very quickly.
Leeds United had worked hard to change and no longer felt they were the club people said they were. But the FA's response to Bournemouth came down harder than anyone expected.
This afternoon, the Football Association outlined the reasons for their recommendations.
And that if there's any disorder surrounding their matches during the current season, and Leeds are found not to have taken the required precautions, we will consider closing the ground or making them play behind closed doors for 4 matches. And if that doesn't solve the problem,
will consider withdrawing their affiliation from the Football Association. And that is a very serious measure because it means effectively that the club won't be able to operate. It'll be closed down fully.
Well, obviously, there were a section of the supporters that acquired that label, and acquired that label justifiably. The culture that I want to see in the football club, on and off the pitch, is a culture that mirrors the right sort of values that you would like to see in the big wide world out there, and eventually create a club that was a nice place to go and create supporters who were a credit to the club when they travelled.
Gordon Strachan, the Leeds United captain, has presented a cheque to a local day centre. But the team aren't just signing cheques for charity. Every player's contracted to do 7 hours of community work each week.
You do stay up for the games, don't you? You watched the Man United game the last time.
As part of the setup at Leeds United, you didn't have any control almost. You were relying on the common sense of the supporters, those who really loved Leeds United, and there was a sense of, are there Leeds United fans who are doing it? There was a sense of, are there fans coming in from other cities and portraying themselves as Leeds United fans? There were so many things going on. It was horrible. One of those times that you just didn't know where you were and what was going to happen next. There was a fear that the worst could happen and something would happen and then the club would get banned and there's nothing you can do. So I don't think that ever went away, and that took time, and all we could do as the staff at Leeds United was work towards whatever we could do to make things right.
The club had a battle with the FA for its existence, but it also had to compete on the pitch to stay in the First Division. Howard Wilkinson paid more big fees for Chris White and Leeds United's first £1 million players, John Lukic and Gary McAllister.
We never had any money at Leeds. We never had any. But we let people think we'd won the polls.
They were a great team. I think Howard would be the voice of reason. He would explain why he needed what he wanted, and there'd always be a logical reason for that. There'd also be a really good footballing reason for that, which is the most important factor. But then it'd be a case of, I'm pragmatic. It's going to cost money, probably more than you thought I was going to ask you to spend, and it's over to you. And Bill Fotherby was that perfect foil for him. Bill tapped into every single business or entrepreneur, for want of a better word, that was also a Leeds fan. So I don't know whether he even bothered to look through the database, if there was one then, but somehow he could smell us out.
I said to Bob Baldwin, who was my assistant here at the time, we've got to get the business people in Leeds involved. You couldn't get a cup of coffee in the bar downstairs. You got a pint of beer, it stuck to your hand, you couldn't get it. It were frozen there, freezing. That executive club there, that was the first one I did.
You'd spend fortunes in a year following Leeds, because it wouldn't be just your season ticket home and away or your transport. It'd be, look, we've got a spare billboard at the corner of the pitch, and I'm normally knocking them out for £4, but you can have it for £2,000. And I think if I told Howard you'd done that, it'd look well on you. And all of this went on every day of the week with him. And it got to the point where other businessmen will tell you, you'd get the call from Bill, and rather than have 3 hours of conversation about how great we were going to be and Maradona's coming tomorrow, it'd be, look, what's the bottom line, Bill? What's the cheque that we're writing here today? And you'd give him it. It's uncanny.
Matter of fact, I went to see him for a wage rise once. However, says go and see him for a wage rise. I ended up sponsoring the game, but no.
He rang one day and he said, I've got something for you. So I said, all right. So he said, come down to the ground. He said, there's only 100 people. He said, and I've got one for you. So you come down, there's this big picture, hand-painted, of Elland Road. Behind the Kop, it's got like one of the boards, it's got HN Financial Consultants, on this painting. and it's got number 3 of 100. And he said, "Do you like it?" You know, I'm like, "It's fantastic, yeah, I love it." You know, you see your own company name then, this hand, oh, it's tremendous, Bill. He said, "It's only £1,000. I said, "What?" I'm like, oh. He said, "I don't know, Bill, it's a lot of money that I don't, you know, I'll have to think about it." "Well, what am I going to fucking do with it?" He said, it's got your brand on it." He said, "I can't sell that to anybody else, can I?" And you're like, oh my God, no. And then like one of the lads, Alan Ross, I'm ringing him up. I said, "Hey, have you been invited down to Elland Road for this 1 in 100 painting thing?" "Yeah, fucking hell, it's in my car now. I'm just giving me a cheque for £1,000, you know." And that was it. Done. All sold. And now it's at home now. Stuff he did.
Gary McAllister was another statement signing, adding quality to a midfield that already had plenty in Gordon Strachan and was hoping for more from 2 stars in the making, David Batty and Gary Speed.
They just grabbed it, didn't they? And off they went. I used to just look at them, man, and think, flipping hell, 2 young kids, these.
Gary Speed was the ultimate utility star player. I think I played him in every position but goalkeeper.
I remember Speedo saying just before he signed pro contract at Leeds, there were a question mark whether they were going to take him. Pete Gumby was the youth coach, and he was the one that said to Howard, "Listen, no question marks with him. You've got to sign this kid."
And I remember he used to turn up from training in his Leeds United tracksuit and sit in our store. We only had a tiny shop in those days. For hours. Just because he didn't really know anybody at that time. He was from Wales and he used to come and sit in accent with his Leeds United tracksuit on.
What a great guy. Great professional. You know, he had no trouble with any managers whatsoever. He used to just get on with his football, and he was a good-looking bugger as well. He used to come in with black eyes.
I'm not having that.
He used to have a black eye, and he still looked lovely.
Great, Mr. Craig's, you know, he just tagged along with Speedo.
He did, yeah.
I think Gary fully aware that he was becoming more and more popular, stroke famous, and David saying, "I don't want any of that."
That's what you need in a team. One character and another character against with one another. Gary's a good guy, David's a bad guy.
The first team meeting, just before we went to team meeting in the hotel, and he's got his feet up on the table. I just looked at him. He just looked back at me. He said, "Don't bother even asking me to take my feet off." I went, "Fine." So, no. You could only do your bit with bats.
My first day's training over there at the training ground, Dave Batty welcomed me to Leeds as he did everybody. You know, Vinny Allaire passed me a ball and Bats took me everything out, and he just looked at me and he just went, "Welcome to Leeds." Right, cheers, Bats.
Yeah. I think sometimes it can be called a hard man when actually your job is just to win the ball and lay it, which is what my job is at Leeds. We've got a nice blend throughout the team, and I'm just one part of 13.
Gordon Strachan on the right, Gary McAllister, David Batty, Speedy on the left.
You've got the skill and the knowledge of Strachan. You know, I'm seen as a passing player. You've got Batty, who is probably one of the most underrated centre midfield players I've ever played with, even though he played loads of times for England. And Gary Speed was just quite a unique player, you know, fantastic left foot, brilliant in the air.
Great half-back line, wasn't he? Best he was. You haven't seen one better since. The all 4 of them could play football.
I think if you transplanted those 4 now into a team, you'd still have the same end result. Yeah, they'd cope in any company. You're just happy to have 4 players like that in your team.
Leeds United had 4 top midfielders in the team, but 5 at the club. After getting Leeds promoted, Vinnie Jones was the odd one out.
Yeah, we played Luton away, which was my last game. Played in the number 8 shirt, which was the only time in my whole career, even for Wales. And we played well. We played 3 in midfield. Bats, me and McAllister. McAllister should have scored a couple of goals. He was one-on-one with a keeper. So me and Bats were there grinding it, and McAllister had the licence to bomb forward. I think he had 2 or 3 one-on-ones. If he'd have scored them, we'd have won 5-6-0. It could have all been different. A lot of things Gary McAllister did could have changed my life at Leeds, but Gary's a fantastic player, you know, and I knew that. I knew I could do a job alongside him or alongside Bats or the 3 of us or something, you know, but I jumped the gun. I was a wounded warrior. And you got to bear in mind, you know, Michael Jackson weren't as popular as me in Leeds at the time. And now you're not playing. You know, your boots are there and you're training hard and you're doing extra training. But I used to be fucking in tears, like, with anger, you know. And, you know, it's worse when you're up there and they're all going, well, Vinny lad, why aren't you playing? Or you should be playing. And you're looking down, you know. I always remember a Man United game. We were playing Man United at home. And I was up in that top corner. I just had to leave. I went home after about 20 minutes. Just crying my eyes out. Not, you know, bawling, but like anger of it all.
That pre-season was Vinnie Jones' first season with Gary McAllister present. And of course the teams, and I announced a team for the game, and I got on the bus at Ellen Road. I'm the last one on it, and the next thing I know, I feel something hard, metallic and steel by the side of my temple, and I turn round and it's Vinny with his shotgun pointed at my head, saying something like, "Make my day, punk." Anybody seeing that without knowing the story would think, oh, there he goes again. Look, that's him reverting to type. And in fact, it's not at all. It's him being personally in a very, very bad place in terms of disappointment, and yet managing to turn it into something funny. I thought we needed to bring added quality to midfield, and by that I don't mean quality as a person, I mean quality as a player. And in bringing Gary McAllister in, I thought that I'd done that. Where I made the mistake was thinking that that would kill Vinny, and that not being first choice would kill him. And with Astor, thought I was wrong on that one. He'd have just bounced back and given it a go. And to have kept him at the club and around the club would have been, I think, he'd have been a huge asset.
You know, people say, you know, the highlight of your career, it is, you know, I mean, you know, having the trials, scoring 2 goals against Brentford in my Wimbledon trials and getting signed that afternoon, scoring the winner against Man U on my home debut, and the FA Cup and everything. But when you know, Wales, being picked for Wales was fantastic for me, and driving over the bridge, you know, down in Cardiff, and Speedy teaching me the national anthem and then wishing he hadn't. I used to drive him mad in the hotel. But, you know, it was a fantastic year in my life.
Wilkinson's players had the desire to prove themselves. Leeds beat Everton, drew with Manchester United, and went on a run of 8 wins and 3 draws that took them up to 3rd.
It was almost a continuation of that previous season's aura, whereby after the Leicester game, after the Bournemouth game, you just felt like this huge momentum had come along with that. I think, remember, we played Manchester United straight up on the Tuesday or Wednesday night, and it was an absolutely appalling game which we should have won. And after that, so we'd been to Goodison Park and we played Manchester United, and we more than held our own.
They still had the adrenaline from the season before, and that adrenaline which you've seen many times when teams, they can push you right up there.
Together we agreed the points we thought we could get, and we agreed that until we got that number of points, we would not allow ourselves other than to think about staying in the division. Once we'd got past that number of points, we'd then set targets for beyond that. Of course you do that, but I know that in their heads they quickly soon turned to thinking beyond that, as did I.
And it got to this point where people were actually starting to think about, you know, could we end up first? Could we end up second with this kind of momentum that we've done? I talk about momentum a lot, but it absolutely felt almost like a roller coaster. You know, we went through up to Christmas by and large, and had some absolutely fantastic results.
As in the Reevy era, too much success undid Leeds, playing too many games in the FA, Rumbelows and ZDS Cups. In their first season back in the big time, Leeds finished 4th, and as Wilkinson went shopping again, it was clear he intended to do even better.
I don't think anybody says it's won the league. But what happens when good players come in, you tend to take up the challenge, whether it be Steve Hodge at midfield, we all go, oh, we better watch what we're doing. He's an England international player. Defender, Dorigo coming in. Rod Wallace.
You identify a need, and then you look at players who might fit that need. What do we need to push on, to go one stage further than where we are now? Where are the players that might do that for us? Can we afford them?
All the lads said by that time, everybody got used to the training, the pre-season, they knew what to expect, you know what I mean? And they also made sure they knew exactly what to expect, and so they got some working done before they actually came back pre-season.
Keep the ball, just keep the ball. Nice and easy for starters. Nice and easy.
Every Monday morning, in your little jockstrap or your little pair of briefs, no shoes, socks, nothing, you were on them scales. And
I used to hate it. I used to hate it.
Mike McKennigan used to stand there behind everybody, so you couldn't get away with it. Nobody could get away with it.
I used to have all the lads just looking at my weight, see how much I put on. I can remember when we played, he got called off a game here, and we had to train. And we were at Fullerton, and it absolutely belted down my rain. I can't remember who we were playing, some big hitters, and they're all sat on the bus, and we're training, and he's got us diving headers and sliding in the mud. And all these players, these big hitters, must have been looking at us thinking, what are them nutters doing? It's freezing cold, he's chucking it down the rain, and he's got them diving in all the mud and rain.
You knew what you were doing. You knew you had a responsibility for your position.
On a Fridays, everybody used to think, we'll finish at 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
We were still there at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon thinking, what the hell's going on here? But we knew what we were doing. Everybody knew. And if it didn't work once, we'd do it again. And if it didn't work, we'd do it again until we got it right. And then we come to the game on a Saturday, spot on.
Top of the First Division by November, Leeds went to Aston Villa. Live on TV, Leeds showed just how good they were.
The game, I think, that changed the nation's perception of Leeds was away at Aston Villa. We completely outclassed them.
That was a fantastic game for the players because it brought everything that we were trying to do. It all happened in one game. You do get games where it all comes together, and that was one of them.
Just thinking, in that game, everybody here seemed to be able to run like the wind today. Nothing can stop us. Just have the freedom in our play. Emmett scored the corner kick as well, that what people have been trying to do for the last 25 years now.
Goes in short this time. A lovely little back healer. Strachan into the danger zone. It's turned in. Chapman, I think, on the line. It's 3-0 to Leeds United. Strachan, the architect.
And the celebration was brilliant at the end where the Leeds fans were. That was a powerful, impressive performance that night at Villa Park, and probably one of the best games I've ever played in.
I think that was a point where I thought, yeah, we're really a good team.
Still time for a final flourish, perhaps, from Leeds United. Sterling, Chapman in a good position on the far post. There he is, and there is the final flourish.
Aston Villa had been title contenders. So was Sheffield Wednesday. In another televised match, Leeds beat them 6-1.
It must be the same in musical theatre or whatever, wherever you've got dynamic flow of movement, etc., to actually practice, rehearse, and then on the night pull off the best performance, which it has got everything in it that you've practiced, but you'd only been able to recreate in a bit there and a bit there, and to bring it all together, it's extra satisfying.
Dorigo, that's good running and a fine ball, speed. First time towards Chapman. Oh, a magnificent goal by Lee Chapman.
There was no other way of dancing around it. We were either going to win or we were going to be second, and it became this kind of fight to the death between us and Manchester United. Again, it's sod's law that the first time we're pushing for the title, the team who hasn't won it for 26 years is our main rivals.
Alex Ferguson had spent twice the money Howard Wilkinson had since selling Gordon Strachan to Leeds. His side were the nation's choice to win their first championship since 1967. Fate pushed them together, with Leeds at the top of the table and for 3 games in a week at Ellen Road in the League and Cups.
2 years ago, it was Leeds United who. Now, it was devoting several column inches to the kind of the fans as troglodytes and the drudgery of Howard Wilkinson's football. And it's a team without personality. It's a team without class and style. That's great because they're talking about you. If you meant nothing or you weren't perceived as a threat, they'd carry on. Manchester United, the club, the fans, and their own media would have simply carried on with this received image of them as the greatest club in British football who have no rivals, when clearly that wasn't true.
Leeds and Man U is just, I don't know what, more nasty. I don't know what the right word is. It's a fierce fixture. But a game all the players look forward to.
Now they really, really meant something, all of these games. So you add the rivalry on top of something that's hugely significant, historically significant potentially, for both clubs at that point. And it made them even more tense, nervous, white knuckle rides, unpleasant, churning of the stomach kind of event.
We earned that draw today. We more than earned that draw against the team who virtually everyone who's supposed to know about these things are saying is the best team in the English League.
The league game was drawn and Leeds lost the 2 others, but lost something more than the chance to win a cup in the last 10 minutes of the trilogy. Lee Chapman suffered a double fracture to his wrist, and now Leeds urgently needed a new goalscorer, or the league would be lost. Wilkinson took a gamble on a forward with a bad boy reputation. Eric Cantona was the Vinnie Jones of France.
We gave him a stage and an opportunity because he was blowing it fast with his attitude, Wednesday's attitude in France, everything else.
And it was very difficult to know who or what we'd signed at that point. There was certainly no question of kind of Gallic flair.
Eric was important because there was a danger we'd be without Lee until the end of the season. And as a consequence, he was signed. It was a chance signing. It wasn't brilliance on my part.
Alors, Monsieur Wilkinson, pourquoi avez-vous signé Eric Cantona?
Parce qu'il est un bon joueur et nous avons besoin de bon joueur à ce club de football.
You weren't supposed to be able to answer that. You can obviously speak quite well towards him then.
I can understand him better than I can understand Gordon Strachan and Gary McAllister.
He took a lot of pressure off us when he turned up. There was something else to talk about, for other people, the way he went about his job. It was different. It was fun for us, with this new fella who didn't say much.
I remember when he first came and the lads all took to him straight away. You knew that because they hung his boots. He had these big boots that came halfway up his thigh. You just don't wear them things at Ellen Road and all. I went into the changing rooms and somebody had hung them up, on the ceiling. I don't know how they got up there. And I remember Cantona, why have they done this? And the boys are saying, because they like you. Welcome to Leeds United.
Saturday night, everybody into Majestics, upstairs, and Eric was astounded that if the lads wanted to go talk to girls in Leeds, they had to go down on the dance floor or to the bar and make an effort. And he was actually genuinely suggesting that this isn't how it should work. The girls should come to me. So that was my first experience of Cantona's arrogance.
And then Cantona came on stream as a player and started to do the things that he can do. And whilst we only ever really saw flashes of those, he scored a goal against Chelsea, which is almost unlike anything I've ever seen.
I can remember Eric coming on and he could produce a pass or he could produce a goal. It was in those tight games where teams were just packing their defence that Eric certainly made a difference.
And very quickly, he helped just infuse a different character to that team, simply because I think he gave that completely different threat, and people just didn't know what he was capable of. He's very much an unknown quantity. He just stood there and glowered and was brilliant, and then stood there and glowered and was rubbish, but one more than the other.
Cantona lifted the fans, and Chapman lifted the players by only missing 4 games. But Leeds were struggling to put 2 wins together. After a 4-0 defeat to Manchester City, Howard Wilkinson looked for ways to take the pressure off his players and transfer the tension to Alex Ferguson's.
Never thought there was real pressure on us to win it. I didn't think anybody thought you must win it like you get with some clubs, some big clubs. I think everybody was standing there and said, listen, we're really happy with what's going on here, we're really happy with what we're seeing, we're really happy it's generated in Leeds, in the Leeds area, and the whole place suddenly sprung into action. The football team kicked everything off in that area, so I think we were all enjoying what we were doing, and so I don't think we ever sort of saying we'll have to win the league. They go to the point where some people thought, well, they can win the league.
Removing now doubt is important, so I spent the Sunday just going back over the games and going back over the records that I kept, and looked at it and thought, well, that group of players there seems to be in the group of players that over the last 2 seasons, taking into account there are changes, have done well. I'll take the uncertainty out, some of the uncertainty out of the next games, and say this is going to be the team barring injury and barring 1 game, and that game will be Liverpool away. And I'll make 1 change for that game if no one's injured. Man U had got to go to Liverpool on that penultimate game as well when we were playing at Sheffield United. So I also wanted to get in their minds the fact that we needed to get results that possibly might put them in a position where they needed to go to Liverpool and at least get a point. Whatever team Liverpool turn out, it's going to be a difficult team to beat.
We had some poor performances in the run-in as well. You know, we lost heavily at Main Road, but there was no panic. You know, he just says, listen, this can happen. You know, this can happen. You know, he was very much in the thought process of it's what we can do. Not to be looking across the Pennines to see what's happening at Manchester United, where there was slip-ups. You know, you can see that the pressure was coming on them. You know, that's such a long time that they hadn't won the league as well. So more pressure on Manchester United, probably. But Howard he just stayed unbelievably focused and just made it pretty clear that, you know, we can only do what we can do. We just need to beat what's in front of us. You know, what happens elsewhere, you know, we'll see what happens at the end of the season. And it was, I think, his calmness in front of the TV cameras as well, which was always, you know, players say they don't watch it, they don't watch their manager speak. They do. They can see how he's reacting to the whole situation. And he was incredibly calm. You know, we can win this, but we've got to play and we've got to stay focused. And it was, I think it was his manner around the place as well. Everybody was calm, but there was a belief, you know, that things weren't going that well across at Manchester United.
There was nothing new Howard Wilkinson could tell his players now. All Leeds had to do was play as well as they, deep down, knew they could.
You simply had to believe in your teammates, and I certainly did.
Like a champion golfer going down the stretch, you know, of a major, you know, he's got to trust his swing. You got, you know, that was something he always heaped on us. You know, just trust your ability, trust yourself as a team to go and get the right results.
Well, trust your swing is like trusting the guys round about you. It's the same thing. Trust your swing, trust the people round about you to get on with. We could do that because there was nobody in that team got to let you down really.
Howard was very diligent on, you know, on practice and the sort of the muscle memory of things. You know, the movements. You know, all became sort of ingrained. You know, when we're in certain areas of the pitch, you know, free kicks or corners, there was always set movements. You know, you were always allowed to go and, you know, play off the cuff. You know, you were never restricted of trying to get the ball down and play. But in certain areas, there was loads of rehearsed movements to try and to get vital goals when games were tight.
The pressure was hugely on Manchester United at this point. You knew that they were the team who'd created this environment around themselves and this national perception that they were just going to stroll through and take the honours, and now They had to deliver that. It was the time to put up or shut up for them.
Manchester United were 2 points clear and had 4 games left. Leeds United only had 3. But in the space of 3 days, Manchester United lost to Nottingham Forest and West Ham, while Leeds beat Coventry. The scenario Wilkinson had planned was now real. If Leeds beat Sheffield United, Manchester United would have to go to Anfield and win.
You're like Dave Bassett, you're a good mate of his, but he'll give you nothing on Sunday. You'll get no favours from him, and the whole of Sheffield is against you.
I
Wednesday
wouldn't
fans
be so sure. I was out with him last night, and I promised I'd find him a personal sponsor for next season. And I am wearing a clue today, but I can't reveal the name of the personal sponsor. But he told me last night that he thought Sunday would not be too difficult for us.
Analysts say that 35 to 50% of of what happens in a game can be chance. Good managers try and make sure that they're at the 35% end, and not so good managers leave it to the fate of the gods and it's the 50% end. But then there are just games where you just know, despite everything you might think, try and do, etc., that things are happening out there that are beyond your control.
Strange game.
It's evident in some of the footage. You'll see a lot of crisp packets and rubbish getting, there was little sort of hurricanes. It was really windy that day.
I tell you now, I can say this, honestly say this, I don't ever think I played in a game with, 5 fluky goals. Ever. And I've played in a lot of football matches. I think every goal was a freaky goal.
We went from bright sunshine to thunderclouds, rain, hail, wind, errors, dodgy bounces, everything. Anything you could throw in the pot. The only thing you've got left then is the character of your players.
Just away, a real scramble in there. Strachan takes it quickly towards Wallace. Was he brought down by the goalkeeper? He might not matter anyway. Speed, Wallace. It could be the most unusual goal of the season. It could be one of the most important. He has delivered it well, and the keeper's missed it. And all in front. And it's John Newsom who arrived on the far post. Good corner as well. And Pemberton takes it and it's gone in. It's an equalising goal. Wallace going through quickly. It's lifted back towards Cantona. And Gale defending. Oh, what he's doing. It's gone in. It's another bizarre goal. And another vital goal from Leeds United. Leeds have done their bit. They can start the celebrations, but they won't be complete until later today.
I knew that Manchester United were never going to get any favours at Anfield.
All the Liverpool fans clearly wanted Leeds to win the title, and they were barracking constantly the Manchester United fans. And the Manchester United fans turned around and said, who the F do you support? And Liverpool fans all started singing We Are Leeds.
Across the face of the goal, Houghton! It's in there by Walters, and now the title goes to Leeds United without any doubt at all.
We came back on the coach, and by that time, we'd all been drinking anyway. So I rang my nephew up in Leeds. I said, listen, can you come and pick me up? I'll leave my car and take me through to my sister's house in Bradford, right? So I went through there, and my nephew said, oh, Uncle Alan, he said, I think you're just won championship. Liverpool had just gone 2-0 up with about 3 minutes to play. He said, I think you just won championship. And it's like, have we?
So I went to the Holiday Inn because my wife and the kids wanted to go up there a bit of swimming. And I thought, there's no point in going home. We'll just sit there and pan. You might as well let the kids splash about. I sat away in the lounge and I said to the kids, don't speak to me till the game's finished. Do not say anything to me. So I sat there for 90 minutes plus, having cups of tea, Coca-Cola. And then they only come in when it went 2-0 Liverpool. Next minute, somebody for the Yorkshire Evening Post turns up with a bottle of champagne. How do you know I was here?
I remember Sir Alex Ferguson saying that Leeds United didn't win it, we lost it. But I can't agree with that. At the end of the day, and the history books will say who had more points. If they weren't good enough to beat West Ham at the time or beat Liverpool at the time, then they deserve it. Leeds got more points, end of.
I think that year Howard's team lost
one game out of the first 27. I mean, that's some achievement. You're playing in the big league. And I think they only lost 4 games all season. Won more games than Manchester United that year. Lost fewer games than Manchester United. Also scored more goals than Manchester United that year.
Because nobody expected Leeds to win the league. It was always Man United's going to win it. We haven't got the flair that they had.
8 days before, on the Saturday, Man United cruising it. The following Sunday, you've won a championship.
It's just fantastic, isn't it? If you're gonna take the title from someone, you want to take it from them.
The feeling was just unreal to just know that you was part of, such a massive achievement. Brilliant, brilliant feeling.
We went to a little pub just next to Roundhay Park. We sort of met there, and Adriano at the Flying Pizza was big friends of Howard. He had invited us all there to go to the Italian up in Street Lane, and we all ended up there. It was a fantastic occasion.
There was everybody there. Cantona, Gallagher, Batty, everybody was there. You could cut the atmosphere, it was electric. And I think it's about 11:45. Baby Batter came up to me and said, "Martin, what are we doing now?" I said, "Well, what are we doing now?" I said, "I'm going home to bed." I said, "I've got work tomorrow." He says, "We're not." He says, "We're celebrating." He said, "We're going back to yours." So they all followed back. And we got into the party mood. Had a jukebox in the house at the time, so we had all the music on. Next to the house, we had like a football pitch. And we all play football at 3 a.m. and dancing and singing. You just couldn't believe it.
Leslie Silver and Bill Fotherby had asked Howard Wilkinson to take Leeds United back to the First Division. They believed he could do it, and they backed him to do it. But they could only have dreamt that Wilkinson, the board, the staff, the fans, and the players would do as much as this for Leeds.
Where we'd come from, if you think we were 4th bottom of the Second Division, and then by April 1992 we'd won the league.
But everything was right at the right time. But it was scary just before we got there, because the club could have went right out the business, So it was a great time where everything comes together, the perfect storm. It all happened. But it didn't just kind of fall into place. It was set off by Leslie Silver, then Bill Fotherby getting Howard Wilkinson, and making sure he got the right players in. So it has to be just right. It has to be just right. You have to have people driving you on to do your best.
The city was developing as well, and it just felt like the two were kind of feeding off, almost reacting to each other. I think it's the point where the city and the football club began to overlap again and began to work with each other, and that again is testament to the vision of the people running the club at the time. You need that symbiosis. You can't have the success of one without the other, and that's something they recognised.
My best thing was sitting on top of the open top bus, the parade through Leeds. I was sitting with John Newsom, and I couldn't get near Gary because he was on the front with David Batty with the cup.
Good time. It was a great time for us, and sort of lucky that we had those times really, and felt a part of it.
See, people ask me, "Where's your medals? Where's your things? Where's your strips?" You come in the suits as well. There's no strips, there's no medals, there's no nothing. But I've got that in my head, and every time I meet a Leeds fan, it comes back again. So I replay that every time I meet a Leeds fan. I replay different games. I replay everything.
Howard built that team up. I think it doesn't happen by chance.
The players that were at the club, were they fashionably the best? Were they worthy of being at Leeds United? Obviously, damn right they were.
That team would still do pretty well today. I'm absolutely positive of that. People always look to the midfield, but Chapman would always score goals. Wallace was always a threat. As I said, Dorigo and Sterling, in an era now where full-backs are attack-minded, there was nobody better than those two getting into the opponent's half and delivering. And we had two centre-halves who had the seasons of their lives.
Most people think that football players don't like meeting fans. I love it. So I've always got this link with Leeds fans, wherever I go in the world. it's always a good talking point when people bump into you and go, I'm a Leeds fan. Ah, very good. So you can always get. One thing I've always actually thought about with my wife, people ask you for selfies over the last 15 years. I should have done it the other way about. Asked them for a selfie back and kept them all. I would agree with it.
I'll always remember at Leeds was, you know, we were all in it together. We were all a family. We used to go to Flying Pete's. We used to go to La Comida in town after games, and it used to be everybody. You know, we used to go to the conservatory, the observatory, Mr. Craig's. You know that day.
The wives used to come as well.
Everybody came. Family members came.
Family
you know, and you know Vincenti, who owned La Comida at the time, you know, he just closed the restaurant because we would all be in there.
And that were down to Gordon as well.
Yeah.
You know, Gordon Strachan, he organised everything.
People thought he was, you know, was just coming here to retire. No, his fitness was awesome. His touch for 2 or 3 seasons, Gordon was unplayable and probably one of the best players in Britain. You know, at 35. So, and it's no coincidence that Gary Speed, David Batty, and myself all played up over 35 years of age at good level. That's purely down to working alongside Gordon.
When they were in training with Gordon, like, the old man was taking the ball off the young lad. That's what got to Gary. I'm not having that. So that's when Gordon pumped him up, like.
I mean, I don't think people, you know, in football knew how professional Mel Stirling was, how professional Mervyn Day and John Lukic were. You know, you concede a goal through them 2 goalkeepers, you never did it again because, you know, you'd know about it. You know, Tony Dorigo, you know, amazing pace. There was no big heads. There was no superstars. There was nobody thinking, well, you know, walking it.
I'm better than club.
No.
No. Gordon wouldn't let it.
No.
The manager wouldn't let it.
No.
You know,
Michael Hennigan wouldn't let it for a start. You know, we were together. We ate together. We drank together. We went.
Tried together.
Yeah, we did. We did everything together. We laughed. Laughs we had. Oh my.
It was the team and what Howard had brought together. It was maybe at the time you don't recognise it or you don't realise that you're part of something pretty special. But now when you get a wee bit older and you look back, you think, well, that was clever. You know, the people, the mentalities they put together, the sort of the little mixes we've spoke about, the youngsters and quality older players, and it was put together very, very well.
But you know, getting back to Wilco, I mean, he's just a class act as far as I'm concerned. That's been, always will be.
So Howard didn't have an easy job, and I still think the way he went about doing it, it was so subtle that he never really got the recognition as the manager. What a job he did at Leeds United, not just on the field, but for Leeds as a city. You know, I thought we were going nowhere. It was negativity all over the city, and Howard came with the football, and as football does, it changed the whole mindset of the city.
Wilkinson, he made Leeds United. He made such a difference. He wrote a book about his time he was here. And I've got that book at home, and he signed it, and he wrote something in there which I was elated with it. You are the wind beneath my wing, Bill Fotherby. That was a nice thing to say, a nice compliment, because we worked like a perfect partnership. And I don't think I ever let him down with a player. Didn't agree with some of them he signed, but never let him down. What we achieved at Leeds, it was a miracle. It was an absolute miracle what we did, and that's why I can smell it today.
You win football matches, you win leagues, you get on a bus, you get on an aeroplane now, you do what you do, and then you finish up at home, and then it's the next game. You've never been in that, you know, Evita position where you're looking down and the square's full and you've got nothing to take your mind off it. You're not thinking, shall I make a substitution? It just is overwhelming to have that many thousand people, as it were, hailing Caesar. It's frightening, really. That God knows how it, if it was happening often, what you'd think. I wouldn't like to think you get used to it anyway. You know, there are all sorts of moments in your life, and some of them mean a lot more to you and to other people. It's up there. It's up there, yes.
And this is what makes it for me. Everybody enjoying themselves with their families and enjoying it, and seeing the people outside enjoying it.
What really matters, no matter where I go in the world, if I meet a Leeds fan, somebody taps me on the shoulder, well done, Gordon, really enjoyed it, you go, brilliant. That doesn't get any better. And vice versa. Hopefully if somebody meets me, that gets their memory going back to their days. What we created between us, everybody, we created something that lives in our memory forever.